It is amazing how many products of our everyday life are made from oil and gas, and very few people from the general public are actually aware of it. It is in fact a fairly recent industry that has made it possible to produce all these goods. This is the petrochemical industry. Hello, I am Michel Duc. I am a lecturer at the IFP School, and I would like to welcome you to this course on petrochemicals. Today, I will first explain to you why the petrochemical industry should be considered as a major branch of the chemical industry. Then, I will give you insights into the business fundamentals that drive this industry. We will finally review the routes from petrochemical feedstocks to plastics, which are the main products of this industry. So, let's get started. The petrochemical industry is actually a major sector of the large-scale chemical industry. As mentioned by my colleagues Jean-Luc Monsavoir and Olivier Bernard, oil refineries and natural gas processing units produce streams that can be upgraded into petrochemical plants to make higher-end products. These products are first chemical intermediates, also called base chemicals. They are at the origin of a very important international trade activity. Base chemicals are the precursors of an extraordinarily large variety of more complex molecules that are used to make consumer products such as plastic items, synthetic rubbers, synthetic textiles, paints, cosmetics, medicines, and so on. The profusion of petrochemical-sourced consumer products is just amazing and keep increasing day by day. Just look around you and you will realize that they are a part of your everyday life. Petrochemicals are at the heart of an extended value chain. The related industry covers the production of base chemicals and the manufacturing of raw plastics and resins. As their name infers, petrochemicals come basically from petroleum, that is to say crude oil, but also from natural gas and to a much less extent from coal and biomass. The feedstocks used by the petrochemical industry are made of mixed hydrocarbons, which are molecules consisting mostly of carbon and hydrogen atoms. The hydrocarbon streams used are either specific oil cuts from refineries or condensable products from natural gas processing units. Petrochemicals do not reach the final consumer, i.e. the man in the street. They are actually at the heart of a business-to-business activity. Once converted into plastics and resins, they are first sold to customer industries, named converters, who transform and shape them into consumer goods. As a result, few of us make the connection between the petrochemical industry and the commonplace objects that surround us, commercialized by retailers. Proceeding through the petrochemicals value chain, the value of the products progressively increases. Oil and gas are quoted on markets at around 100 to 800 euros per ton of oil equivalent. Base chemicals are typically traded at prices from 500 to 1,500 euros per metric ton. Commodity plastics and resins are generally commercialized at around 1,000 to 2,000 euros per ton. Final consumer goods can be even more expensive. The level of capital investment required to build a new production facility is very different for each of these industries. Very high for oil and gas exploitation and petrochemical production, much lower for the manufacturing of consumer goods. This is why there are only a few large companies producing oil and gas. A few more manufacture base chemicals. Substantially more companies are involved in the production of raw plastics and resins, whereas millions of smaller companies make the consumer end products. Trading is a core activity at each step of the oil and gas to plastics value chain. Each step provides opportunities to buy, sell, exchange, or swap products to optimize chain cost and asset utilization. Each region of the world has its own specificities in terms of economic outlook and ability to welcome investments in petrochemicals. Europe, North America, and Japan are homes to the historical petrochemical companies. North America is undergoing a rebirth of its petrochemical industry thanks to shale gas. In contrast, the European petrochemical industry is stagnant or under reorganization. Saudi Arabia has developed a solid core petrochemical industry thanks to local access to cheap raw feedstocks. This country has become a major exporter of petrochemicals. China is still importing massive quantities of petrochemical intermediates. It benefits from large manufacturing infrastructures to make plastics and resins, locally converted into consumer goods that are re-exported worldwide. India is becoming another actor in petrochemicals with a fast developing industry. The petrochemical industry is first and foremost a global industry, particularly with regard to the very active trading related to it. Among the historical companies, BASF was still the leading petrochemical company in 2014. New players belonging to the fast-growing emerging economies in Asia, such as Sinopec and Reliance Industries, have more recently joined the group of leading petrochemical companies. Within the new players, new petrochemical companies have also emerged from countries benefiting from advantaged feedstocks such as SABIC. The growing capacity of the new players is partly due to the acquisition of activities from historical companies. Another characteristic of the petrochemical industry is that its products are manufactured mostly to common specifications, especially for base chemicals. This guarantees to all the purchasers of petrochemicals the same characteristics and properties from one country to another, in line with the global nature of this industry. The manufacturing technologies are available from existing petrochemical producers and engineering companies. They are being continuously improved and can be acquired by purchasing licenses. The design and construction of petrochemical manufacturing plants require, however, massive capital investments. As feedstocks and energy costs are high and product prices generally set by the market, the only way to make a good profit margin is to build large-scale production facilities and play on economies of scales. We have seen that petrochemicals are mainly sourced from oil and gas and that their production is energy intensive. The fraction of oil and gas effectively consumed by the petrochemical industry remains, however, modest compared to the fraction used for transportation fuels and residential heating. Less than 10% of crude oil and 3% of natural gas consumed annually is used to manufacture petrochemicals. The main basic feedstocks of petrochemical platforms are natural gas liquids consisting of ethane, propane, and butane coming from natural gas processing units, and byproduct cuts of oil refineries such as naphtha and mixed butane and propane, also called liquefied petroleum gas or LPG. The petrochemical platforms convert these feedstocks first into the so-called olefin and aromatic intermediates. Ethylene is a major petrochemical intermediate. This is the smallest building block. Ethylene represents over half of the total base chemical production volumes. Propylene is often a side product of ethylene production. Aromatics form the second main group of building blocks in volume. They consist basically of BTX, benzene, toluene, and xylenes. The final purpose of all these petrochemical intermediates is mostly to manufacture large commodity plastics and resins, as shown by their respective annual production tonnages. Ethylene can afterwards be converted into lightweight plastics called polyethylenes, or it can be chemically transformed after further steps into polyvinyl chloride, PVC, a plastic material encountered in the building industry. In the same way, propylene can be used to make polypropylene, a versatile plastic. Aromatic intermediates require further chemical modifications so as to be, in turn, possibly converted into useful plastics and resins. One of these plastics, polyethylene terephthalate, PET, is often the material of choice to make water and carbonated beverage bottles. In the same way, some aromatic source plastics, such as polystyrene, are used to make dairy food packagings, building insulation boards, or consumer electronic casings. Well, I think I have given you enough to think about for today. I will have the pleasure of giving you a deeper insight into the manufacturing of petrochemical intermediates in the next course. Thank you for your attention and see you soon. Bye for now.